Hi, today I would like to have a Zen tea ceremony. In Zen, there are certain ceremonies, ceremonial meditations, which is, for instance, flowering in the garden or having your tea. It is an act of total presence in the moment, living in the present moment, and of course entering into the present moment totally. The meaning hidden in it is, in daily life people generally are in so rush. For them to have their tea or coffee is really nothing very special. You just have your tea or your coffee and then go to your work or get into the rush of life. So these kind of ceremonial meditations in Zen imply that there is a different way of living in the present moment with total attention. Even it might be the simplest thing like having your tea or, for instance, washing the dishes. Even that can be handled in a ceremonial meditative way. And Zen, through these ceremonies, ceremonial meditations, the purpose is to make one enter into the present moment. So in that sense it's quite important, because if one discovers to enter into the present moment using any door, it can be this tea ceremony or it can be the gardening ceremony. Once one enters using any door, because based on one's intentions or the things one likes, one can choose a different door to enter into the present moment through these ceremonial meditations. But once one enters using this door, of course one will find the way. Once one touches that thing which is living in the present moment totally, then one will find his or her own way. So it is important to understand in this sense what it means to live in your daily life, in your certain daily activities, to live in such a way that it becomes the thing that you are doing becomes somehow a meditative process, a ceremony, which means you do it with your total attention, like it is naturally the most important thing in your life. Not a sense of forced importance, but naturally it becomes the most important thing in your life. In the sense, if, for instance, you wake up to this life all of a sudden out of nowhere, all of a sudden you now open your eyes, no memory, nothing, like you are just born. What happens? Then the first few moments, perhaps an hour or so, everything looks so beautiful, new, like a miracle. You try to discover. Whatever you do with full attention, naturally. Then that very first hour is like a ceremony, because everything around you is new. You want to discover, you want to understand, you have natural attention. It is not that you are in rush to go out to your work or to do other things, but you are naturally in the present moment. Similarly, if you discover slowly by slowly, perhaps at the beginning, let's say beginning with a kind of tea ceremony, or another thing you like. It can be coffee as well, if you are a coffee addict basically, or if you like coffee, you can start with coffee, or gardening, watering your plants. All these nice activities can be done in this ceremonial way. What is important is to understand the philosophy, then it can be applied to any other act of daily life. But once one begins that ceremonial way of living, then you can extend, not only with the tea. Once you start, when that meditative mind comes into being with the tea ceremony, then that ceremonial meditative state of mind will continue throughout the day, naturally. You don't need to do anything. So the important thing is, at some point of the day, preferably at the beginning, because if you start in the morning this kind of ceremony, then if you can enter that present moment and have that meditative state of mind, then all your day will be affected. So that's why it's important. And as I said, once you begin this meditation, then slowly in your life you will realize, it might take of course certain time. You don't start with a tea ceremony today and all of a sudden you begin to live every minute of your life in Zen, meditative state. But that's the step you take, which will, if you are really serious, if you really want to understand, which will get deeper and deeper naturally. All of a sudden, after some time, you will realize you begin to live your daily life mostly in Zen, in the silence, peace, and the meditative state of Zen. So this is important. And it will go deeper and deeper naturally. It is not something that you force. That kind of forcing, in fact, denies Zen. But once you begin to understand what is implied in the Zen meditative ceremony, then naturally you will realize after some time, you start with tea or coffee or watering the plants, the flowers, gardening, but then you will soon realize naturally that ceremonial meditative way of living will enter into your daily life in whatever you do. Cooking, washing the dishes, anything, watching the TV, talking on the phone, Facebook chat, anything. And then you will have this quietness and the peace of mind. So, I suggest in whichever ceremony you choose, it can be tea, coffee, or anything you prefer to start with. Like for instance, with the tea ceremony I will show is preferably in the mornings, just find a quiet room in your house. And if there is some sun coming in, that is even better, because there is great energy in sunlight. And I suggest as much as possible, not the very hot sunny days directly under the sunlight, because that can be dangerous, but a little bit of sun as much as possible will energize you physically and also mentally. So as it is now, there's a little bit of sun coming in the room, and I sit down. I'll start my ceremony. Now, first, just sit down and have a quiet moment. quiet moment is important to enter into the ceremony, because in that, if you can just leave everything behind, so in that, what is implied in that quiet moment in the beginning, what is implied is you must, as much as possible, leave everything behind. The daily things, all your problems, your work, your business, boyfriend, girlfriend, children, anything, as much as possible. At the beginning, of course, it will be difficult, but then day by day you will be able to leave things behind more and more. It's like going into a sacred land, moving away totally from this world, right? So it's very interesting in the sense, in a way, in that moment it's like, what is death? At the end of our lives the physical body dies, but death of physical body is not the most important thing. The importance of death, also, which makes us very scared, is the death of the self, the ego, the persona. My memories, my relationships, my addictions, the things I possess, my loves, my hate, anything. All those things, the ending, the death. So, the beginning of the ceremony must start with that kind of death. Right? Not as a morbid thing, but in the sense, of course, the physical body is alive. But when the mind stops, which means death, what does it mean? The quiet moment, the quiet mind is ending of thought, ending of the ego, the me, my work, my business, my wife, my children, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, right? All those. When all those, how can all those end? In a sense, death, the mind, the ego, the structure of ego collapses. Very interesting if you can do this. Now, when that stops, what happens? You see, then there is silence. The physical senses are awake because the mind stopped. The attention, the energy is not divided. So you are very sensitive, attentive. The mind is entering into the state of emptiness. Emptiness of the ego, with its problems, with its time, future, the past. So the mind is entering into a different state of emptiness, energy. Right? That is what it means to have the quiet moment at the beginning of the ceremony. Just sit, and when you start with that quiet moment, it's like, I sometimes say, it's like jumping off an inward cliff. Sit and jump off the cliff, which means die. You die in the mind. Like the thing in the brain, in the mind, which is you, the ego, right? Here, there is something living here. There is the body living, right? Physically. And there is an entity living here in the center of the brain, which is called the ego, the self, right? Then, at this quiet moment in the beginning, let the body stay here, sitting comfortably. In a sense, separate yourself, the ego, from the body. Feel like you are jumping off the inward cliff. which means you come to an end. Nothing. No future, no past. When you die, there is no future, no past. Very simple, right? So, in that quiet moment, there is death. Look what is happening. When the mind stops in that sense, there is no activity of thought, then the body is living and there is an awareness. When the mind stops, awareness is there, like one breathes. There is breathing. You are aware. There is awareness, not you are aware, because as we said, you jumped off the inward cliff. There is no you anymore to be aware. Right? That's the whole point. Because generally in all meditation, people are suggested many meditation techniques to focus on their breathing. You see, when you intentionally focus on your breathing, then there is the self, the ego, thought focusing on your breathing. So what happens? The ego playing games in the world, getting tired of them and coming into the so-called spiritual world, and now focusing its attention on the breathing to have a marvelous spiritual blissful experience. But the point is, when there is the ego there doing things, it can be anything. Ego in the church, ego in the temple, ego meditating. It's the same thing. There is no difference. Right? It's the same old trick. Then the mind cannot enter into the real state of meditation because the ego is there. When the ego is there, the mind cannot enter into the present moment simply because the ego has its roots in time. Without past, how can the ego exist? And without future, how can the ego exist? Ego is all about past, my memories of the past, building the ego of who I am now. Like the fight that I had, for instance, I didn't, but let's say I was angry at somebody, I had a certain fight 1 hour ago. My ego is different now compared to 1 hour ago. There is an ego now who is angry at a person, who has an image of that person. So it's a different ego. And it will add. Each minute, each experience is adding to the ego to building something new. Right? All experiences. They hurt me. So now I am building a kind of ego which is being isolated, which is isolating itself, which is making walls around himself in order not to get hurt again. But all this is based upon my past memories. So ego must be built upon the past memories, and therefore its roots are in past, in time. Very simple. See. And when there is this thing here, this thing called ego is here, meeting this present moment. The ego meeting the present moment is past meeting the present moment. Very simple. Past, there is present and the past, the ego, they meet. There is no real living in the present moment as long as the past and the present moment trying to come together. It is not possible. When past totally ends, there is the present moment. Total living, total action in the present moment. So this is very important to understand. Right? Very simple. So, that is why I tried to explain that in this real meditative state, ZEN, beginning of the ceremony, the ego must be weakened at least. If at the beginning, if it is not possible to totally end, die, total collapse might not be possible, I agree. But seeing this, the importance of it, and the total attention, the awareness will begin to grow. And that is like, aiming the ego and shooting. And the ego is first will get hit on the arm. That means not death, but the process will begin. The ego is now shot, right? It's beginning, the process of dying starts. And you get better and better in this process of meditation. Next shot will be better. You perhaps hit the ego from the shoulder, right? Come. Better and better, you make another shot, there will be a point, a total Zen point, one shot, ending of it. Total ending. Finished. At that moment of ending, what happens? Time stops. Because the ego stops. And without ego, there is no time. There is the physical body, and because there is no ego, what happens? Time ended. There is then attention. The mind is attentive, sensitive. Right? So this is very important. At the beginning, this silent moment for the entry of the ceremony. You can extend that silent moment as much as you like. It's okay. I suggest at the beginning at least few minutes. Just sit down and leave everything behind. Sit. And in that sitting, just, don't exist inwardly. The body is existing. But you here, stop movement. With no forcing. Don't try to. Don't force to stop. You see? That is what is suggested in all other kind of meditations. They say, by focusing on your breathing, you will slow down thought. There is a little truth in that. Because of course, when you focus, somehow you will slow down thought. But it is not the natural slowing down and the natural ending of thought. So that is why, if you do that, what happens is, in another direction, you are giving strength to ego instead of weakening, instead of ending. Because when I'm focusing on my breathing, who is focusing? The I, the me, the ego. So the I will stay there all the time. I'm focusing. And it is a wastage of energy because there is conflict. The mind wants to move. But the ego says, I must stop my mind. So there's a battle, continuous battle between the mind, the ego and the mind is a constant battle. The mind wants to wither away. But the ego says, I must stop and focus on my breathing and I must meditate. This very conflict between the two is the wastage of energy, which is an absolute necessary for true meditation, you see. Meditation is this releasing of energy in its totality. Not friction, not conflict of any kind. Right? So this is very important to understand. I sit down. As ego, I die. So let the mind do whatever it wants. When the ego is not there, let the mind wither away. Let it move in thoughts. You see, there is no wastage of energy. It will wither away. It will move. But you will realize, after certain days and months, it will slow down naturally. So the key, the secret is, when you sit down for that quiet moment of meditation, just don't exist as the ego, as the one who controls thought, who focuses on breathing. Nothing. Just die. And then let the mind do whatever it wants. Like it is not your mind anymore. You see? When it is your mind, you try to control, you try to suppress, whatever. When you die, you are not there. It's the mind, or do whatever it wants. There is total freedom. It can go wild. In that total freedom, in that total wilderness, the mind will slow down. It's similar like when one is young. For instance, personally, when I was young, I was going out, I liked partying and all those kind of stuff. And I didn't accept any pressure from my parents or whoever. Because somehow I felt I must live what is inside to its fullest. Right? It's very important. Total freedom. Because I knew only through that total freedom there will be natural flowering of a true. By that time I didn't know, but I was feeling. Only through that path, only through that flowering, natural flowering, somehow something beautiful, something true, something natural, true human being, in the sense, true life will come out. And so, therefore, I never accepted in my personal life, never accepted any authority of that sense, right? And when I was 24, 25, because I lived in total freedom, I said, okay. And then naturally I began to enter into another path. You see? Now, what is implied is that through that total freedom, while living, peace, real peace begin to come. Because there is no suppression, no conflict, right? Through that flowering, you will find the natural path. In the same way, the mind, in that free flowering, quiet, no control, no suppression, not focusing on breathing, those kind of, let it free, flower. In that flowering, what happens? In the same way, like in your daily life, in your life, in that freedom only, the natural thing comes. Natural peace, silence, intelligence, everything comes. Only through that flower. So this is very important to understand. So, the ceremony begins. This is important. With this silent, quiet moment. As much as possible. If you have time, and no rush, please. Don't do these things in rush. Just wake up early, so don't put yourself in rush. Rush is the most destructive thing on a meditative state of mind. Never be in rush. If you cannot do it in your weekday because you are working, just start on the weekend. No rush. And we started with this quiet moment. We sit down. Total ending, which means total freedom in the mind. Let the mind do whatever. Let it go wild. Don't be scared. There's just a few. I told a few people, and they tried this thing. You see, their minds are so imprisoned. Even giving this freedom, it's like when one is in prison all one's life, never have seen the sunlight. And all of a sudden you open the window a little bit and the sunlight comes, they can't open their eyes. It's so painful. So a few people have tried this thing because their minds are so confused. When you tell them sit down quietly a little bit, now doing nothing, just sit down, they say my mind goes crazy, I can't do it. You see what happened, what has become to our minds. Even sitting down quietly for a few minutes is not possible anymore because we are scared the mind will go mad, wild. Let it go wild. What happens? Just a few minutes, even if it is painful. Few minutes. Let it go wild, right? Leave the body, sit down. Let the mind do whatever it wants, go wild, anything. Don't control, don't suppress, nothing. You know, in that doing nothing, by the side of the ego, when the ego has no action at all, nothing, like it doesn't exist anymore in this equation, then the mind will start its own process. That is meditation. This is very important to understand. So give it freedom, total freedom. You will see, just do it a few months, a few months, and then you will see your mind will begin to change incredibly like you have never done in the past. And it's a natural change, a true change, a one-way change, a permanent change, transformation. But if you try to silence the mind in artificial ways, like trying to focus on your breathing and those kind of stuff, it is not real transformation of the mind. And once you stop those kind of activities, and even if you continue those kind of activities, it is very limited. It is not a real silence effect in your mind. But once you stop those things, it will totally go away. But the way that I describe, in this way, okay, it might be a little bit more difficult, and you'll understand, but you'll see, after some time, you will begin to realize the natural transformation. One-way ticket. It is not something you have to sit down every day, focus on your breathing all your life. No! Once the mind sees what is implied, this process of meditation will start naturally. Naturally it will start, and naturally it will continue. You don't have to do anything. You see, that's the whole point. The ego, when it is out of equation, no effort. Effortless meditation. This is the only way. This is the only way. There is no other way. This is true meditation. Effortless. No effort. That effort is wastage of energy. The effort of I will meditate. I'll sit down and meditate. Meaningless. You are making effort. That's wastage of energy. You need total energy for true meditation. And therefore you must eliminate all conflict, all effort, all resistance. See, this is very important. Effort by the side of the ego must come to a total end. Okay? Now, start with this, as I said. At the beginning, you might not understand what is this for. I don't get immediate results. True. Continue. I say at least 3 months. Do it. If you can do it every day, do it. Right? Your morning coffee ceremony. Now I am talking, of course, explaining. That's why it's taking too much time. But you can finish all this ceremony in 10 minutes maximum. And you can make it shorter or longer based on the time you have. But just make sure there is no rush. Right? Or as we said, any other ceremony you want to do. But start with this quiet moment. This is important. Now, we started with the quiet moment. And we ended in the quiet moment. Now, after this quiet moment, already there is a certain sense of silence coming into being. Silence in your mind and in your room. And the peace coming with that silence. Right? It's important. Now, we opened our eyes, came out of the silent moment, and now I'll have my tea. Now what is important here is to be aware that the beginning of the ceremony is the ending of the ceremony, which means there is no time moving into the future, which means, let's say I am beginning the ceremony now, right? I started, I am in the present moment, right? So I'm always in the present moment, right? I'm looking, all in the present moment. This is important. The beginning, there is the beginning, and that beginning is always there, right? There is movement. I am moving. I am having the coffee. This very movement is, let's say, 2 seconds. 3 seconds is time. The movement of the clock. Same thing. Think of this as the clock. Moving. Chronological time. But there is no movement. This is not this movement like I am now. Look, this 1 second movement. Starting here. Moving. Did this move from the past to the future? No. See, that's the whole point. This movement, 1 second movement, look at it. 1 second moving in the present moment. This is not moving into the future now. It is in the present moment. You see? All in the present moment. No movement into the future. I started my ceremony and I am living in the present moment in my ceremony. It's always in the present moment. You see, this is very important to understand. This moment is always in the present moment. But look, moving, present moment. So it's been around 1 minute I started my ceremony. I am in the present moment. Always. It is not the past. There is, of course, the past in the sense as memory, dead. But all coffee ceremony is in the present moment, right? And I am not in a movement like a river from the past into the future. No, there is no such movement of time river. I am only in the present moment, and this present moment is not moving into the future. This is important. That means it's just full attention of what we are doing. See? So most important thing is, again, I'm showing you. Now I'll start. Start. Move. Finish. This 1 second move. Right? This movement is exactly the same movement of the clock. The physical chronological time. Right? But it's all happening in the present moment. You see? It's present. Only present moment. But when I am not attentive, when I am in rush, like in our daily life, I'm having my coffee, but thinking about the business, about the work, about, how will I get there, what will I tell to my boss, all this kind of stuff, which is time, future. Or I'm thinking about the past. It's the same thing. But in my ceremony, there is no time. There is only the tea. The tea, this room, the sunlight is the only reality in the universe at this period of my life. All other things, my boss, my wife, my children, everything is in my mind. Memory. Stored in the brain cells. But what is real, what is living, is this present moment and my tea. Enjoy your tea or coffee. Only when you are free from time, totally, there will be total enjoyment, total entry into the present moment. But what is important is to understand this. When you are having the ceremony, be aware everything is moving in the present moment. This is important, right? Be aware that this physical movement is the only time. There is no movement in terms of time moving from the past into the future. So, all this ceremony now, 3 minutes let's say, is all of it is in the present moment. Like, take these 3 minutes, right? Cut these 3 minutes out of whole your life, your past, your future. Take only these 3 minutes. Think of your life as a video, 78 years of video. Take these 3 minutes, cut it, take it into your hands. 3 minutes. Look at it. 3 minutes is all in the present, right? What is 3 minutes? That 3 minutes is just the measurement of the movement, right? The movement, time, clock. This is 3 minutes. Not the distance of the present moment. The present moment is immeasurable. That 3 minutes of your life is something we just cut from the totality of your life, right? But that 3 minutes is just the measurement of physical movement. But there is all that 3 minutes is only present moment. There is one present moment. And there is physical movement in it. It's like, think of present moment as the scene, the theater. Nothing in terms of time. Separate present moment from time, totally. These two things are totally different things. Present moment is like a scenery, a scene, where we play the game of life. The game of life in the sense, not as actors, but life is like a playground. That's in that sense. Okay? And that playground, the scene, is the present moment. So, present moment has nothing to do with time. Totally separate these things. Next time when you think of present moment, just think of the scene. That's it, no time. It has nothing to do with time. Present moment is the scene. Stop there. It's no beginning, no end, no time, nothing. It's here, always here and now. From the beginning of time until the ending of time. Here, the present moment. Same one single present moment. What changes is the moment changes. Present moment is same. Present moment is never changing. It is not that the present moment starts and ends. It has no beginning and ending because it has nothing to do with time. Present moment has nothing to do with time. So this is important to understand. And in that sense, I'm always living in the present moment. And the movement, my movement, physical movement is time. So this is important to understand. And from there, we come to the ending of the ceremony. With this total attention of understanding, attention of that present moment is not moving to anywhere. It's not moving to future. And it didn't start in the past. This very understanding is the real ceremonial meditative state. So it can come through the tea, because then you are slowing down everything in that attention. Or watering your plants, flowers, or in the kitchen, anywhere. But this is important. The important thing is basically present moment. There is no movement. What is time is the physical moment, and this physical movement only has a physical direction from the east to the west or clockwise, but there is no this movement. The illusion is when this physical movement from right to the left or east to west or clockwise, when there is such movement, we think there is also a river of time moving from the past to the future. You see, there is no two movements, one physical and one time from past to the future. That's the illusion. This time must come to an end, so there is only physical movement in the present moment. That's it. Then there is no past, future entering into the present moment, and then you begin to live in the present moment. So this is important to understand. And in that ceremonial way of living, basically you begin to live in the present moment. Alright, today was quite a long video, and just try and see what happens. As I said, at least for a month before you get bored and say nothing happens. Okay? Okay, see you soon again. It's a sunny day again, and continue the ceremony in a nice high. Right? Okay, see you.